Hi, my name is Chrissy Roth, and I'm the Senior Advocate for Amnesty International USA. I work at the federal and state level to limit the use of force by law enforcement. We need to limit the use of force by law enforcement because over 1,000 people are killed by police nationwide annually. In the state of Maryland, between 2013 and 2019, 128 people were killed by police. 80 of them were Black people. In these years, Black people accounted for 29% of the state's population, and yet 63% of those killed by police. The use of chokeholds and neck restraints should be prohibited by law enforcement because we have to take seriously that these maneuvers can be lethal, and too often their use by police is considered to be a non-lethal tactic. From Eric Garner in 2014 to George Floyd in 2020, there's no telling exactly how many people have been killed by these maneuvers. In 2014, the New York City Police Department, when Eric Garner was killed, had a policy in place to prevent the use of chokeholds, yet this didn't stop the officers involved from taking Eric Garner's life and him away from his family. All but 9 states in the US have deadly use of force statutory laws. Those 9 states include Washington, D.C. Right here in the Delmarva Peninsula, Maryland, D.C., and Virginia don't have use of force statutory laws. There does appear to be a change in the American appetite for this issue, and some of that is also driven by the global attention being paid. After George Floyd was killed, over 1 million people around the world wrote to just the governor of Minnesota about the killing of George Floyd. And when people start paying attention, that's what it takes for change to be made. At this point, between 2005 and 2019, only 3 officers have been prosecuted or convicted for unlawful use of lethal force. In that span of time, understanding there are 1,000 people that are killed by police, and that's just within the state courts. Why has it taken so many Black people caught on camera to be killed and brutalized by police for us to get here? That's an answer I don't have, but we should do what we can with this moment where the political will exists and get the very best we can, because we can never make whole these families who have lost a loved one to police killings, but we can try to stop there from being moved. It's important that Maryland limit the use of force to only when necessary. Maryland does not have a police use of force statutory law. Officers are held to the standard set in 1989 U.S. Supreme Court case Graham versus Connor. The court ruled in Graham, reasonableness of a particular use of force must be judged from the perspective of a reasonable officer on the scene, and its calculus must embody an allowance for the fact that police officers are often forced to make split-second decisions about the amount of force necessary in a particular situation. While Graham's reasonableness standard is commonplace and widely accepted by law enforcement, some states' use of force statutes incorporate additional elements that bring important clarity and even push beyond the floor set by this case. We have seen too often how officers' gross negligence may have created what was deemed a need for deadly force, and it's time we put laws in place to hold officers accountable for this. This is among the reasons why the use of force by law enforcement must be limited. For people that aren't convinced that we need to put limitations to the use of force by law enforcement, it's fair to acknowledge that officers have a difficult job, but limiting the use of deadly force does not necessarily mean put officers' lives at risk. When Seattle Police Department limited their use of force standards as a requirement of a consent decree with the Department of Justice, they saw fewer people killed by police and no increase to officer injury. These policies don't have to be mutually exclusive and are for the safety of everybody. Maryland must take up policing reform next session. It's past time for Maryland to enact laws to limit police use of force. Public pressure has increased nationally since George Floyd was killed, and it has not let up. A majority of Americans support major changes to policing, according to a recent Gallup poll. The state has experienced this pain for years, and it's time the legislature take this seriously. The price of not reforming these laws should not be the blood of families unnecessarily losing loved ones to this very agency whose quintessential function is to preserve life and keeping people safe.